with your own script or an idea for a script that a fan who becomes a friend, and then I think Paul and Ken decided that was an interesting idea, but we'll go somewhere else. So I'm guessing early on you were very comfortable with this notion of playing yourself, because as an actor that's always a tough gig, I would imagine.
Yeah, at the beginning it was based on experience, different experience, but on my time, time when I played football. So it's completely different than playing myself today, like in this one. I think Paul had the freedom to write his own story, and I think it's much better. It's great.
But that notion of the sort of, I know you want to put a lot of humour in there and sort of play with people's perception of who you are and your philosophies and so forth. Was that always something that you knew, okay, this is going to work, or were you a little bit wary? Because most people aren't too crazy about being, portrayed, in any way. They like a little bit of their own sort of control over who they are. But was that always something you said, I have to let them, give them as much freedom as they want to have fun and to play with my image, or were you anyway reluctant?
No, yeah, I was very. When we decided to work, the first name we put in the list was Ken Loach. It was a dream for us. And we know that Ken work with Paul, but we know that when we work with this kind of genius, it will be great, and we'll be proud of the works. But at the beginning, sometimes you can work with people who can be very dangerous with yourself. I'm ready to play with myself, but in a clever way.
Well, for you, Paul, I don't know whether when approaching this, when the idea came up, whether you were anyway scared, because you're dealing, I know for Ken meeting Eric, and I think for Eric meeting Ken, there was a little bit of sort of, they were a little bit in awe of each other, and they both like, they worked tremendously. For you, I don't know whether there was a kind of inbuilt nervousness about that, or whether you just shut your eyes and said, this is it, I'm going to go for it.
No, not at all, really. I mean, when we first met up with Eric, we just had a very open conversation, and we said to Eric, well, let's see if we can find a way into this. And you never know if you're going to find a way into it unless you can see a way in. I mean, you can't write it. You can't write it to order. You've got to feel something. You've got to think of something. You've got to have a sense that this is really going to work. And I suppose the key to it was, well, first of all, Eric's openness. Was very, very important. But I suppose the key to it was really just imagining Eric Bishop. A granddad who messed up his life, who was overwhelmed by life, who had panic attacks, who smoked a spliff, and that he has an imaginary relationship with Eric. So, I mean, I had no idea whether this would work. I talked to Ken, and we thought there's something interesting here, there's a lot of freedom, but obviously that's something you have to do in collaboration with your colleagues. So I went over to see Eric in Paris, and we just talked for 2 afternoons, and we had great fun, really. There's a lot of, we laughed a lot, and we just talked and we listened to each other, and 2 things came out of that. First of all, that Eric was prepared to laugh at his own public persona. He had a great sense of humour, which was very obvious to me after speaking to him for some length of time. And also, which was very, very important, was they had real kind of sympathy and insight into the fragility of this man, Eric Bishop. And so once we felt we were in the same spirit, I actually wrote with great freedom, really. But you can't write with somebody right on your shoulder. You can't do that, at least I couldn't. So it became actually a very pleasurable adventure, and we laughed an awful lot during it, which was a great joy.
Well, Ken Loach is one of the greatest filmmakers out there, and he would be known for his sort of social realism. He's always had a great political kind of voice in the films that he's made, and obviously over here, The Wind That Shakes the Barley was a huge impact on us. But that sense that you're dealing with magic realism, you're dealing with you're kind of stepping into surrealism, and it's almost being John Malkovich at times. Was that easy as a writer to sort of know how far should we go with this? Because the world is our oyster. We're now into a kind of this guy's having visions, and we're dealing with a figure that's so well known we can that affects the script.
I think some people can feel very constrained. I mean, you shouldn't feel like. I mean, my my perception of my friends is we have a very rich imaginative life. You know, you have what you see on the surface, but what you imagine, you know, is very, very rich. It's full of contradiction. So actually, someone who's going through a crisis and he finds an imaginary figure to talk to, you know, I don't think that's too far from the truth. I think when you're slipping through your own fingers, you'll look for any way of surviving. And he has this imaginary relationship after a couple of slips. There's a comic element to it. But I think we all have great imagination. We all have strange thoughts that go through our heads if we're honest. And many of those thoughts are contradictory, crazy, funny, obscene. Everything goes through our heads. So I don't think it's such a big jump to imagine another person having a rich imaginative life.
I love the fact in this movie you literally get to blow your own trumpet, and I know when you had the 9-month band you learned to play the trumpet, but I've always got the impression that you're not somebody who's completely, you know, I would say comfortable with hero worship. That, you know, I know that I get the impression that you feel that great divide shouldn't be there between, you know, somebody having an idol and somebody being an ordinary person, believing that this, you know, other one is godlike. Are you always comfortable in being who you are? Because there would be a lot of Eric Bishops out there who would think Eric Cantona, you know, is a god, is a sense that this man is beyond reality.
No, when I was on the pitch, when I was a football player, I always try to work hard to improve myself, and to have the confidence to enjoy on the field. I think if we try to have the enjoyment, we can communicate with the fans. But if we play for them, I don't think it's the best way to share this enjoyment. And after for the public image, in public, I think it's important to have a lot of distance about situations, about yourself. Instead, we can become crazy. It's just a big game we play all together. It's not very serious.
But you have said that, you know, obviously, like any man or any woman, you love the idea that 60,000 people will chant your name, but a part of you fears that might stop as well. You know, the fact that you have that effect, and as much as that's a stunningly wonderful feeling, that it has to come with the fear that someday they might not chant your name. And I don't know whether that's real for you, whether you kind of feel it would be dreadful one day to think in 20, 30 years' time people wouldn't be chanting Eric Cantona, which they still do. Do you have that kind of real, genuine fear, or is it?
Because yes, I love it. Every time I go to a church and I can hear the people sing the song. It was great. Yeah, and I hope the year after it will be the same. So every time I come, it's the same. I know that one day maybe we forget, but I'm prepared since a long time. So today I'm surprised. But I've been, when I retired from football, I was prepared to become.
But to also, well, you know, I mean, the film does play with that.
Sure.
But at the same time, underneath it, we're actually subverting celebrity culture. Eric says to little Eric at one point in the film, "Do you think my friends are any more important than yours?" In other words, I mean, naturally he's saying this, we're all in this strange adventure of life together. We see Eric, the genius footballer, you know, all fingers and thumbs, playing the trumpet, struggling to get through a really difficult time in his life. You know, so although we play with the chants and the icon, well, underneath it, we're saying, you know, we're all in this together. You know, and I think that's what you know, hopefully works in the film. That it's actually a recognition of our joint fragility. And Big Eric gives little Eric. He doesn't tell him the answers. All he does is says, like, have confidence in yourself and your friends. You know, and I think that's perhaps why, you know, that the film gels together between the more magical elements and this man who is all those comic elements. That only works if the pain is genuine.
And would you feel, I know early on your father, when because obviously you had a gift for football, sort of your father Albert said that you really got, hard work is really important here in this, that as much as you may have a gift, only through hard work will you be able to make the most of it. And I don't know if that, and your brother Joe was the same, I think, and that idea was sort of inbred in you that you just worked hard at your skill. Was it therefore a struggle, or was it always a complete joy? I don't know if you feel that it was a hard life because of, you know, you had that determination, or whether because you had that skill, it was always just joyful to do what you did as a footballer?
No, when we like to always enjoy to train hard. Of course, in training we like to run with the ball, but sometimes we have to run fast. It's very difficult, but I love to try to improve physically, technically. Every time it was an enjoyment. It wasn't when I've been to training. It was great because in training you can improve everything in every game. After every game, there was a new experience. We improve every time. It was enjoyment everywhere. And during the day, the game, and in training, because every time we work for something. It's important to say. Focus on something, so we can train.
You do the same with acting as well, but you do the same attitude to acting.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. We have to work hard to find this confidence and to enjoy it on the pitch or on the set. And scene after scene, film after film, new experience will improve everything. I really love this way of life.
I'm going to wrap up now, but very, very quickly, just given, for me, I'm not a huge football fan, but I was always very aware of you and aware of other players like George Best, and I love seeing anybody who's skilled, whatever they're doing, if they're a violin player or a footballer. And I don't know for you, when watching the clips here, or maybe if you get a chance at home, do you ever sit down on your own and look at a clip on YouTube or anywhere and say, God fucking damn it, I'm brilliant? But there must be a part of your brain, like Robert De Niro, all these people must at some point realise, I'm having that effect on people, not because I'm lucky. I was and am, I'm great at what I'm doing.
No, I'm waiting to see it on the big screen. Big screen is even bigger.
You have the best of you. You're
I
right
waited
behind
for
the
12
ball.
years, so now I can see it on the big screen.
It goes on YouTube to see him play the trumpet. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, listen, rock and roll. Beautiful.